Hello and welcome to this masterclass. I'm Hannah Joy Williams. I'm a speech and language therapist and I'm up in the north of Scotland, not too far from Loch Ness, if you're wondering where I am. This is the 5-step strategy that you can use as parents to transform communication development for your child if they have a communication and language need, so that you can find joy and clarity and confidence communicating with your child. I'm a specialist speech and language therapist with over 17 years experience working with children who have complex communication needs. I've worked in the NHS and in local council, and I've worked alongside families and in education services to help children to understand and to find their voice. I'm registered with everyone you need to be registered with in the UK. If you're in America, the term is speech language pathologist. Same role, same scope of practice, just a different terminology that we have in the UK here. So I am passionate about getting families the right support at the right time. If you have worries or concerns about your child's communication and language development, or if you're just worried that at some point in their development, they may go on to have either speech and language communication needs, or their development around language and communication may go follow a path that you maybe didn't anticipate or didn't expect, then you're in the right place to find out how to get your child on the right path to communication success, to helping you and your child find the best ways to communicate to get the best outcomes for both of you. So this is to help your child to find their voice in a way that's efficient and effective. So in a way that's based on research and evidence and best practice, but is also including my own experience from working with thousands of families, and celebrates your child's unique and creative communication. So it's about putting you and your child right in the center, and focusing on what's going to be most meaningful, most helpful for you, and what's going to transform communication for you and your child. So I'm here to ensure that communication is successful and joyful for you and your child, while setting the strongest foundation for achieving communication confidence and competence. So the 5 steps I'm going to share with you are about making immediate changes, having immediate impact on your child's communication development, while also setting your child up for long-term success to achieve their communication potential. So once you've watched this masterclass and listened to the 5 steps that I'm going to share with you, what will change for you? What might be different once you've listened to this? So communication will be easier and more successful for you and your child. It is possible for communication to be easier, to be less stressful, to be more successful, for you to move forwards from where you are now, and to feel more confident and more in control. So you'll have clarity around what it takes for communication to be successful, so that you can give your child a strong foundation in communication and language. So you may have received an awful lot of different advice, or you've maybe have searched for different bits of information and you found quite a lot of contradictory guidance, information, advice about what you should do, where you should focus, and how you should help your child. And that can be really overwhelming and difficult to know what you should do, what your best next step is, to find something that really resonates for you and your child. So this and these 5 steps are really going to give you that clarity to focus in on what is right for your child, what's right for you and your child, so you know the best next step that you need to take, and where to find the help, where to find more help, how to get the help that you need as well. So you will feel confident about what you need to do next to transform your child's communication and language skills. So really giving you the information you need to have that confidence that you are the best person to help your child, and that you are really helping them to communicate in the best way we know how to, the best way we can. You're going to save time and energy searching for the answers you need. Because when we're not sure, and you might have been in this position, I imagine that you have done a lot of searching, a lot of Googling. I know that many of you won't have had the help that you need to get you on the right path to help your child communicate, and that communication may be very difficult for you and your child right now. And communication may be stressful, frustrating, difficult. And you know it can't go on like this. You know it can be easier, but you're searching so much. You're trying to find the right help, and that's taking up so much of your time and energy and putting so much pressure on you. So this is about lifting off that pressure, making it easier for you, making it nicer for you and your family, and putting communication back at the heart of what's right, and making this, as I said, making this easier and better for you and your whole family. And it's going to mean that you're going to save time and energy searching. You're going to be able to focus in on what the right step is next, so you can spend more time enjoying being with your child. So who is this for? So your child may be struggling to learn to talk, and you want to know how to help. Perhaps your child is at the very early stages of trying out nonverbal communication. So maybe they use their body or their voice or their hands or their eyes or their face to let you know what it is they mean, or you work out from the signals you're getting from your child, and you use your best intuition to work out what your child needs and wants. But you feel like there's more you can do to make sure you're giving your child the best chance of finding their voice. And you feel like that maybe exploring alternative ways to communicate might be helpful. Maybe you've tried some different ways of communicating, which is fantastic, but you feel that there's more you can do so that can be as effective as it can be to help your child. Perhaps your child has developmental or medical needs that are impacting on their speech, language, and communication development, or they may impact on their development in the future. And you just really want to give them the best start. You want to be as informed as you can so that they can have the best start to become a confident communicator. Your child may be using some words or even some short phrases, but you still feel a bit worried that they are using them in a way that's maybe a bit unusual, or they're not progressing as quickly as you expected or anticipated. So maybe they're using their phrases for things like they know the alphabet, or they know all their numbers, or they copy things off YouTube or the TV. So lots of communication strengths around the language they're using there, but you're feeling still a bit worried that they're not using their language and their communication to kind of engage socially with you. And you want to be clearer about what you can do to help the broader picture around communication. Maybe with some of the advice you've searched for and some of the things you've looked for, you've tried some signs or picture symbols, but you still feel that something's missing to know how to use those most effectively. So I'm a Makaton tutor and ambassador for the Makaton charity here in the UK. So introducing signs to support communication is a brilliant step, a really, really fantastic way to help your child's communication. But often you're in a position where you just don't have quite enough information to know how to use your signs or use symbols as effectively as you can to make sure you're helping your child with all their communication and language needs that they have. And you just want to be more equipped and have a bit more information, and do as I said, do the best you can to help your child. Your child may or may not have a diagnosis, but what you do know is that you can't find the help you need to know what your next step should be to help your child communicate. So perhaps you're waiting or on a waiting list to go through a diagnostic process. Perhaps you've gone through that process with your child and you know that your child is autistic. And now you want to know, well, what next? How do I get the help? How do I help my child to communicate in the way that's easiest for them and works best for them, and so that I can still understand them and know what they need, know what they not want, know how they're thinking, know how to help them to truly find their voice and know the power of communication. So this is for every parent who has a child with communication and language needs, who wants to learn the most effective ways to help your child find their voice in a way that leads to joyful and confident interactions for you and your child. It's absolutely possible for communication to be as I said, easier and more enjoyable for you, for your child, and for your family. So why am I doing this? I know that you're not getting the help that you need at the right time. I know the pressure, the stress, and the impact on you and your family of not getting what you need when you're worried, when you know you need help, you're reaching out for help and you can't find what you need to help your child with their communication, and how it impacts every aspect of your life and every aspect of family life. Waiting for assessment, waiting for support, receiving contradictory advice or confusing advice, or just getting insufficient help and guidance to walk you through the process of helping your child. And I know how difficult that can be. And we can make it easier. It can be better than this. And I know the information that you need and want to share. I want to share that with you right now to help you to take control and know what your best next step is to transform communication, to make it much, much easier and more successful for you and your child. I know you don't have time to waste. I know that this is the right time for you to get this support, for you to get the information that you need to know how to help your child. As a profession, as speech and language therapists, we have never been clearer about how to help your child understand and find their voice. Yet the information and support that you need is not reaching you, it's not getting to you as early as you should have it. And that's making your journey through helping your child with their communication feel like a battle, feel like it's a battle, stressful, difficult, and quite negative, when you really want communication to be about strengthening your bond, strengthening the connection you have with your child, and making interaction easier for them and nicer for you and your whole family. So it's my job to translate what we know about speech, language, and communication in a way that's relevant for you and your child, so that you can take control and you can make the decisions that are right for your child, to give them the best chance of making changes right now for their communication, but also setting them up, giving them the strongest foundation for future success, for being a competent, confident communicator in the future. Oh, so I can help you with that right now. I can help you build that, strengthen the bond you have with your child, help your interaction with your child, help you connect with your child. And you can do that right now while feeling confident you're doing exactly what you need to do so that they can be the best communicator they can be. You absolutely have a right to the information that will help you to be empowered to make the changes that you want to make for communication and for your child. So what this is and what it isn't. So what are you here for? What are you going to find out about with the 5 steps that I'm going to share with you? This is about getting to the heart of what communication really is, what it really means to you, what it really means to your child, and how changing your approach, your understanding, and your perspective on communication will enable you to reach your ultimate goal for your child, to help them to understand and find their voice. So it's about getting right to the core of what communication means to us, what it's all about, and how really focusing on that is the key to transforming all elements of communication, language, and if possible, speech for your child. This isn't an additional list of things that you have to do every day to work on speech. So I'm not giving you a list of things at 5 o'clock, before tea, you have to sit down and play a certain game or work through a certain list. There's no getting flashcards out. There's no working through, certain tasks or activities that are adding additional things to your week or to the load of things that you have to get through. You have a busy life, you have an awful lot on. That's just the way life is for us, isn't it? You might have other children, or you might have other things going on for your family. You might be working. We don't want to add extra things and extra jobs to do. There isn't any need for us to do that. It's not the most effective approach. The best way that we can support your child to with their communication development is to use the opportunities we already have with communication and making the most of those. And that is how we really, as I said, transform communication and make significant changes. So I could give you a quick list of things to do and do this every day or a couple of times a day or spend 5 minutes doing that. The problem is, although that might have a little bit of, it might make it, it's not wrong, it might make a few changes, it just doesn't have as much impact and isn't as effective as the approach I'm going to share with you. So this is about giving you the honest truth that you won't hear anywhere else about the biggest, most impactful shifts that you can make so that you and your child can communicate successfully. The things you can do that have the most impact, that can be the most significant, lead to the most significant changes in communication and language development for your child. So what are these 5 steps? First step, prioritize communication and language over speech. And I've popped this in right at the top, the very, very first step. It's fundamental that we really have clarity and understanding about what this means and what I'm referring to here. So I've popped this in because it's the most effective and quickest route to successful communication. If you're joining me today because you are worried about your child's speech development, so you maybe have seen that your child hasn't started to talk yet, or they're struggling to use speech to communicate, very often what you're actually seeing, what you're most likely to be seeing, is underlying difficulties or issues or differences with language and communication, rather than the primary concern and primary issue actually being about speech. So what we want to do is get really clear. I want you to really understand and really know about the difference between speech, language, and communication, so that you know that by focusing, and you can see what I mean, that by focusing on language and communication, why that's actually the quickest route to successful communication, and why also, if your child is going to be able to develop speech as part of their communication system, focusing on communication language is actually the best way of doing that, of ensuring that we're giving your child the best chance of being able to learn to use speech in a meaningful way, in a communicative way. Actually focusing on communication language at this stage, if that's where the issues and the difficulties or the differences are, that's where we want to place our focus. But it is only right that as a speech and language therapist who knows about this, who knows this area, that I address and speak to you right now, or as we go through the 5 steps, about your worries about speech. And I put into context for you where that sits, so you can see how the bigger picture fits in terms of communication. If you are already with your child celebrating, embracing, and focusing on communication in its broadest sense, so nonverbal communication, how we use our bodies, our voices, our face to communicate, if you're already looking at that with your child, and that's your primary way of communicating with your child, and you're really already focusing in on that, then you're already off to a flying start in terms of supporting your child in the best way you can. But stick with me, because you'll learn some things through this masterclass that can build on what you're already doing and help you to be even more effective with the approaches you're using. So there'll be more here for you to pick up and go away with. So step 2, develop essential communication skills so that you can help your child right now. So it won't surprise you that this is step 2, that this follows on from what I've said. So you are the person who can have the most influence on your child's development. So children learn the fundamental communication and language skills that they need within the relationships they have with the people who are most important to them. So that's you. That's why that's in there at number 2. Because although this sounds like a slightly kind of bigger deal than just giving you a checklist of, right, do this every day or do that every day, this is actually the approach that's going to be most effective. Supporting you to change elements of your communication is going to have the most influence on your child's development It's also ultimately going to be the best thing for you and your family to look at the whole approach you have to communication, because it's going to make it nicer, it's going to make it better, it's going to make it more successful. So it's not about adding more things to your week. It's not about adding more jobs. If you already have a lot of appointments and you've got a lot going on, this is not about adding more. It's about making the most of the interactions you have by putting you in a position of control and power to know how to help your child. So to do that, we're going to meet your child where they are now. So it's quite likely that you're in a position where you have built up quite a lot of information about and observations about your child's communication difficulties and the things that they find challenging. So you're maybe, you're trying to share that with someone. You're trying to get your message across the speech therapist or the health visitor or someone to let them know that you're really concerned about your child's communication and language development, and you have all this information and observations that show, the challenges that your child's having. We absolutely can look at that information, and it's definitely part of the picture for making, for supporting your child. But what you need right now is a plan. You need to know what your next step is, what you should do next to help your child. What is your best next step? And to do that, we need to kind of flip how we're looking at it and think about how your child's communicating best and meet your child where they are now, and build and extend their communication from that point. So we're going to look at introducing AAC, which stands for Alternative and Augmentative Communication. There's a very good chance that you have never heard this term. It's not a term that's really well known. It's not often shared with parents very early on in terms of your communication journey with speech and language therapists, or through that process. It's not something that's often shared in your first appointment or early on in that process. So AAC, as I said, stands for Alternative and Augmentative Communication, and it just means anything we use to support communication, or instead to help communication instead of speech, or to support speech. So when we can't rely on speech itself, it's about using something else to support communication and to make communication possible. So although you haven't heard of AAC, you may well have heard of types of AAC. So you might have heard of signs. I mentioned Makaton earlier because that's a sign program that I often use to support children. Symbols, you may know a wee bit about symbols. Oh, drop things. Symbols to support your child. They are all types of AAC, high-tech communication aids, apps. All those kind of things are types of AAC. So you have a right to be informed about the approaches and the ways that you can help your child best. So even though you don't know about AAC now, and you might be thinking, I'm not sure if this is something I want to explore right now, it's really important that I include this right up there in the 5 steps that are essential to transforming communication, because of the benefits we know it has supporting communication and language development. Because it gives your child a means of communicating right now. So we're going to look at using the opportunities that you have already within your routine, already within your week, to support your communication. So as I said, it's not about adding extra jobs or extra time. This is about having an approach that fits with your family, that aligns with your role as a parent, that aligns with your family values. And it's about making the most of what you already have there, the communication and interaction you already have, and embedding your approach into every interaction, so that you are confident you are helping your child's communication all day, every day. So first step, prioritize communication and language. So let's have a little look about the difference between speech, language, and communication, and how we can really separate those to see how they influence each other, interact with each other, but actually how different they are as well. So communication is the universal two-way exchange of messages between a communicator and a communication partner. So the first thing to really be aware of here is that communication is universal, We all communicate. Your child is communicating. So even if they're not using speech yet, even if they don't have language, your child uses their body, their face, their voice. They may use their position of their body. If they can move their body, they might use the way they can move it to get across to you what it is they need and what it is they want. So even if your child is not deliberately sending those messages, if their messages are really subtle and really, you have to be really tuned in to read your child's messages. There will still be some examples there of something your child does with some aspect of their body or their face or their voice that gives you an idea of when they might be in pain, when they might like something, when they might find something funny, or when they want something. So that's all communication, and understanding how important our body is for really knowing how we can use our body to communicate, and the power of feeling like a communicator, feeling like I can use my body, my hands and my face and my voice to get what I need and get what I want and get my message across. That's really, really important. So there's lots of other ways that we communicate. As I said, might be elements of our body, might pull you, your child might pull you quite quite actively to get what they need or get what they want. They might scream, they might cry, they might shout quite loudly. They may use some words that, even if the words aren't necessarily, they might be kind of unusual, they may be unclear, or their choice of words to let you know what they want might be slightly unusual, but you know what they mean because they've done it enough in a context. I know what that means. I know what they want there. So communication is about all those different ways that we use our body, including how we also, for some people, use speech, but it's how we do that to get a message across. So communication, as I said, is universal. And the second point that is mentioned there that's really important is that communication is a bit of a dance between two people. So communication only exists between two people. It can't exist on its own, by itself. It has to be two people there for it to be communication. So you cannot just do communication or teach communication on its own in isolation. The only way to do communication is to do it with someone else, to communicate with someone else. And what I mean by a little bit of a dance is that all these signals I've been explaining about how we use our body, our face, our voice, we tune in to the other person in whatever way we can to watch their signals, to respond to their signals, and we bounce that back and forth. We watch each other and we move in sync with each other to respond to the signals that we're giving each other. So with two people, with communication, it's very much about the way we learn to communicate, the way your child learns to communicate is to do something with their body, their face, their voice, and for it to cause something to happen with the other person. So the child learns that when I do this, this happens. Mum does this, dad does this, granny does this. When I do this, this happens. And that is how we all learn to communicate. We've just had lots and lots of chance to practice. So your child gets really, really, really good at being able to predict and anticipate, oh, every time I do this, they do this. Maybe I'll do it again. Maybe I feel quite confident now. I'll maybe try a different way or a new way to do that that's a little bit clearer because I'm confident that the message I'm saying has an impact and controls the other person, essentially. So it's about having power, that when I do something, it has an impact and it makes someone else do something. That's what it's about. I do this, you do that. I do this, you do that. And so it's about learning the power of what we can do with our bodies, learning our role as a communicator and feeling like I've got something to share. I can share it. I can do it. I can get what I need because I know that when I do this, this happens. And that is the essence of how we learn communication, regardless of whether that's with our body or whether it's with forms of language, like with speech. It's all a system of knowing that when I do this, when I say that, this is what happens back. This is what changes. This is the response I get. And then you can learn to kind of adapt and shape and change what you're doing. So your child's communication and how they develop as a communicator can be influenced by the responses that they get from you. So two things there, the idea that communication is universal, that your child is communicating, and we want to start really seeking out and watching and looking at the communication signals that your child is giving you, even if they are subtle or confusing or just tricky to work out what they mean. It's absolutely worth spending the time thinking and reflecting on, or you already do as a parent, you're already tuned into your child and their communication, but just really focusing in on that and working out what they're doing with their body. So the other thing I just wanted to mention about communication is it's very much about thinking, what does communication do for us? How does it help us? What does it do? Why do we do it? We only communicate because either internally there's something we're thinking, something we want to share, something we need, something we want to get from the other person or get them to do. So we only communicate for a reason. And our reasons are not just about needs and wants. So quite often when we are thinking about children's communication, we start thinking about, well, I want to know what they need and what they want. Of course, that's important. But let's think for a second about what communication means to you or for you. What does communication enable you to do? What opportunities does it open up for you? Very often it's so much more than just, yeah, I want a milk in my tea, or I want 2 sugars in my tea, or yes, I'll have 2 biscuits instead of 1 biscuit, or I need the toilet now. It's very often and always more than that for us. It's actually about the connections we have with someone else. It's about building a relationship with someone else, about being listened to, about being heard. And that's so often it's about the small talk. It's about the nothing things that we just say, oh, did you see Love Island last night? Or did you see Strictly last night? Or what do you think of that? That is not about our absolute essential needs and wants. It's not about biscuits and tea and toilet and things like that, but it's absolutely essential for our well-being that we can communicate things that are about connecting and building a relationship, building trust, building strong interactions and strong bonds with someone else. And that's through just having fun, just being with someone else, just being listened to. So that's essentially what your child is looking for, the same thing that we look for with communication. They're looking to be listened to. They're looking to be heard. They're looking to be understood. And your child is looking to find a way to express themselves in a way that's easiest and best for them. And so that we can, we want to build on that to make it as easy as we can for them to communicate. So I just wanted to take that second to help you to think about the breadth of communication and think about it, although the issue at the moment may be that you just don't know what your child wants and you just don't know what your child needs all the time, because communication is so challenging and so difficult, and that's becoming very stressful for them. Of course, that's one aspect of communication that is important and we need to look at for your child. But it's not the only area of communication that's relevant, and actually focusing on these other elements of communication that are about just using communication for connection, for being silly, for being funny, for kind of just not as, it feels like less of a reason, but it's actually more, because focusing on those elements can have the most impact on developing a child's communication and language. So communication, absolutely the thing I'm most passionate about, because it's essentially the area that it's the thing that makes us tick. It's the thing that is most important to us as people, to connect with other people in whatever way we can, to build our relationships, to build strong bonds with other people. Communication is how we do that, knowing that we can make the first move, communicate with someone else when we need something, say something to someone else and get their attention, and having the power over our bodies to be able to do that in any way we're able to do it. So it's, as I said, also the area we're able to influence, as you know, you're able to influence as the parent, as the most important person in your child's life. So language, just briefly, language is words and the way they are put together to express many reasons. So language opens up what you can do with communication so that you can use words to refer to things that have happened outside the moment. So you can talk about going to Granny's from last week, or you can talk about something next week. You can share things that are in your head, your thoughts, your feelings, and you use language to help you to communicate for so many different reasons, as I've referred to with communication, not just needs and wants, but to joke, to be silly, to negotiate, to question, to direct, to show your likes, your dislikes, to give information, to get someone's attention, to make them do something, to get them to help you. We use language for all those different reasons. So it doesn't exist on its own. It doesn't just, you can't just teach it with flashcards. You know, language has to be learned within the context of using it for whatever that reason is, in real life situations. Language is also really, really closely tied to cognition. So thinking skills and are what's sometimes referred to as intellectual development, but cognition really just means memory, thinking skills, problem solving. So your brain development there. So we want to make sure that children have access to language in a way that they are able to understand and make use of. And if speech is challenging for your child and it's difficult for them to use speech to communicate for all those reasons, to use language for all those reasons, then we want to make sure we're giving them a way of language to enable them to experience language and play with language, try language out, and to even use it so that their cognition continues to develop and continues to progress, and their language development continues to progress. So speech is mouth words. Speech is one way of using language. So it's very much a motor act. So if you're thinking about your mouth, your lips, back your mouth, if you do b, let's do those two sounds. So if you do and then you do b, the only difference between those sounds is the dangly bit of your mouth does. So it lifts up when you do b, so that the airstream can come up and out your mouth and build up the pressure so you can do that sound. So speech describes the motor act, the clarity of the speech sounds you're using, and how they go together to help form the word. So speech is about mouth words, which are one way of using language. Just to pull that together, I know that's just the first point, but it's really important that we really understand about putting communication and giving it its rightful status at the top, giving it the importance that it should have. Your child's communication is so much more than the presence or absence of speech. So step number 2, develop essential communication skills right now. So this is how your child is going to learn that they have power and control as a communicator. You and your family are able to have the biggest impact on your child's communication and language, and you can influence your child's communication by introducing simple but transformative changes to your own communication style. I just want to make one point here and be really, really clear that although I'm being absolutely direct that you are the person who can have the most impact on your child's communication, if you have the right help, the right guidance, and the right support to walk you through that, I am in absolutely no way placing any blame on you for your child's communication and language difficulties. I just think that some sometimes you are made to feel like the difficulties that your child might be experiencing with speech, language, and communication are somehow your fault. And parents often tell me that. And sometimes making this point really clear that actually you are the person who can influence their communication skills most, that sometimes reinforces that idea for parents that, oh, if I'm the person who can help most, does that mean that I'm the one who's contributed and somehow to blame for this situation? Absolutely, in no way am I saying that that is the case. That is not the case at all. And I really want you to feel free of any guilt that you're carrying right now around speech, language, and communication development for your child. Please let that guilt go. Communication and language, speech development are incredibly complex, and we don't appreciate how complex a picture that is until things slightly, go in a way we didn't expect. So there's many reasons why things don't, the development goes in a way, as I say, you didn't expect, and your child has some difficulties with that. And I just want to be really clear that that's no guilt there. Lift all of that off. Please I don't want you to feel any of that at all here, because I really want you to feel, let's just move this on, that you can actually really influence and you can start making positive changes right now and open up the possibilities for your child to learn to communicate. So communication can only be learned through real life communication within our closest relationships. Language can only be learned through using and experiencing language in real life for communication. There is no other way to teach fundamental communication and language skills effectively. As I said, this is not about, this is about what we do now from this point and how you get the help you need, because your child's communication and language is going in a way that you didn't expect. And that means your child does need a different approach to what you would usually be able to use or what would come instinctively to us. And there's no way you can know what that is. And there's no way you should know. You need to get the right person to help you with that, to find out what that, how you can move forwards with that. Okay. So let's have a little look at this model. This is a really powerful model for successful communication. So this was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. Without a means of communication, you cannot express yourself. So a means of communication is all those types of communication we were speaking about earlier. So it could be nonverbal, it could be using your body, moving your body, your face, your voice. It could be pulling someone to get what you need, or it could be with speech, or it could be with signs or symbols. So there are many different means of communication, but you need to have a means of communication that enables you to convey and get across what you need to. But you need all these elements for communication to be successful. So there's no point just having one element here or just the means of communication. What we want is to have the means, reasons, and opportunities all in place. So this is really focusing in on communication and how we make communication successful. What's brilliant about this model is that it's relevant for any stage of communication. Anywhere your child is at in terms of their communication, this model can work for them and can make sense for you and your child. So without a means of communication, you cannot express yourself. But remember, I've already said your child is communicating. We're going to look at what means they are using and how they are getting across what they need to right now and how we can build on that. But it's not enough to only look at means, which is why, remember I said, it's not enough to just focus on speech on its own. It's not enough to just look at the means of communication here. We want to look at the reasons that we are communicating, because without reasons to communicate, there's no point or need to communicate. So we really need to make sure that we're giving children opportunities to communicate for lots and lots of different reasons. But you also need an opportunity to communicate. Without opportunities to communicate, there cannot be any communication. So maybe you do have a means of communication, Maybe you do have a reason to communicate, but if no one gives you time, if no one understands your means, or if no one gives you a chance to communicate in a way that works for you, then the opportunity is lost and communication breaks down. So it's really, really important that we give children a chance to have opportunities to communicate, lots and lots of opportunities to practice communication. So number 3, step 3, we're going to meet your child where they are now. Work out your best next step by answering these questions. So this is about getting a plan and working out what your next step is. So you know that you're thinking, right, what can I do about communication? So this is where to start. Ask yourself, when does my child communicate best? What time of day? What for? For what reasons? What does this look like? And then you can extend their communication skills by building on strengths. So again, looking at this model, and you're thinking about how does your child communicate? Often it's easiest to start with reasons. So ask yourself just now, well, what reasons does my child communicate? Do I understand when they are maybe in pain? Do I know when they want something or when they like something? Do I know if they're trying to get my attention? What are the reasons they're communicating? And then look at the means. How are they doing that? What are they using to communicate? Are their signals a bit unusual, a bit different to what you'd expect? Have a look and really focus in on how they are doing that, and then see why that's working so well. What opportunity do they have to communicate? Is it because you're at your most relaxed and it's a good time of day and you've got, it's a time you have every day? What is it about that moment that makes it successful? Step 4, introduce AAC, alternative and augmentative communication. So AAC is the unsung hero in terms of supporting communication and language development. It has huge benefits for you and your child, but you really need to know what it is and how it can help you. So AAC can give your child a means of communication. Remember, we spoke about means, reasons, opportunities. If your child is finding, if their nonverbal communication is not enough to get across what they need to, and they're finding speech really challenging, or it's, again, they have some speech, but it's maybe not enough to help them get across everything they need to, then we need to make sure your child has a way of a form of using language, using communication. So AAC gives your child a means of communication. It can be the best way to develop language and communication. Remember how essential language is? If speech isn't enabling your child to use all the language that they might be able to have access to, they might be able to understand, and they might be able to use, then we need to introduce AAC, because it'll be the best way to develop their language, which leads to the best results from a cognition point of view and from a thinking skills point of view. So really, really essential that we make sure we have this in place. AAC helps understanding and use of language, which is essential for cognitive development, which is what I've just mentioned there. AAC supports speech. It doesn't hinder speech. This is one of the biggest myths that prevents people from embracing the benefits that AAC can give you, because you are worried that if you introduce AAC in any way, it may slow down speech development, or it may prevent the progress that your child might be able to make with speech. That we know the evidence is really, really clear that that's not the case. It's actually the opposite. AAC supports speech development. It accelerates speech development when that's going to be possible for your child. And it gives your child, as I said, a means of communication, which makes communication more successful, which drives motivation and drives everything forward. But we know that AAC, AAC is not instead of speech. You're using speech, your child's always immersed in speech. You're always using speech. You're introducing AAC as well as alongside speech to make sure we're giving your child the best chance of reaching their communication potential. This is the biggest thing though that I want you to take away when we're talking about AAC, so that you can have a bit of an open mind about what AAC might offer you and your family, and just the benefits that and the possibilities for you and your child. There is power and joy to be found from using alternative forms of communication with your child. Okay, so your child can experience the power of communication through AAC and truly know what it means to be seen, to be heard, and to have a voice. That is what we said, and we established that we're looking for. We want our child to find their voice. We want to know what your child is thinking. You want to know what your child needs and wants. AAC has the potential to offer that to you and your child if we can have a look at what options might benefit you. There's endless options. You can have more than one. You can try different things, but it's important that you know about this as early as you need to, so that you can use it and you get the benefits from it and get the maximum impact that you can for you and your child. So step 5, using the opportunities to communicate within your daily routines. There's no reason why we can't get an approach that works for you and your family and still gets you the best outcomes. This is not about adding an extra list of things every day that you need to do. This is about embedding your approach into every interaction so that you are confident you are helping your child's communication all day, every day. This is about taking the pressure off. Stop trying to teach communication and language. Remember, we've established that you can't. We can only do communication and language. We can't separate it from everything else and teach it. We want to give our child opportunities to practice communication within real life, meaningful contexts that are already happening for you and your family. I want to help you learn how your child communicates and the best ways for you to respond. And tune in to your own connection with your child and learn how to become a creative communicator. Your child is already a creative communicator. They're using what they can to get their message across. They're using whatever's available to them to send you messages, to get across what they can, because they maybe can't rely on speech or other forms of communication. So they're using whatever they can. They're already being quite creative and using their initiative to do what they can around communication. So it's up to us now to become a more creative communicator and embrace all the different forms of communication so we can send that message to your child that all their communication is valid, that they have power as a communicator, they can make things happen as a communicator, and we want to let them know that they've been listened to, they've been heard. So it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. So I've got the first way that you can all have a think about and a try of this approach. So this is an example of a fundamental kind of a bit of the approach that works for everyone, and it's an essential part of being a communicator. And this is something you can do and you can influence straight away. So what you can do right now, this is a change you can make right now. You can allow your child to initiate communication. So you may have heard and had advice about follow your child's lead, or make sure you listen and watch your child and don't jump in straight away. Has it been explained to you why that's important, or how to really embrace that approach and make the most of it through all your interactions? Possibly not. So that's what I want to do just now. As remember, we've spoken about the power of communication. Children thinking, well, I've got something to say, I want to share something, I need to do something, I need to speak, use my voice, use a form of language to get my message across. That process of learning relies on your child learning that they can initiate communication, learning that they can, as I said, make the first move, that they can think, okay, there's something I want, there's something they need, there's something I want to express, and then they can do it without waiting for someone else to ask a question or to prompt them first. What often happens with communication with parents and child communication, When your child's communication goes in a way that you don't usually expect, and there's signals, the child signals this child's communication is maybe different to what you would expect, or their signals are maybe confusing or complex or difficult for you to understand and tune into, what happens is that we feel more pressure to get more from our child. And as I said, to teach our child, we have to get on and do something. We have to take control. So what we do is we ask more questions, or we give more directions or more prompts. So that puts us in the role of initiator and means that the child is always responding. The child thinks, right, I'll just wait for them to ask me a question or to prompt me or to do something first, and then it's my turn to communicate. But to be an active communicator, to really have power and to learn how to be the best communicator we can be, we all need to feel like we can initiate communication when we need to, when we want to. And that means that you need to place yourself in that role of being a responder and waiting for your child to make the first move. So find opportunities through your week, find little moments where you can be silent, you can be there, you can be available with your child, but just wait, just sit back a wee bit, and then just allow your child to have the opportunity to initiate communication. It might be with their eyes, it might be with their head, might be with a word, it might be with a sign or a symbol. However it is, you value and accept that first move they make that's around them initiating communication, and then you respond to let them know they've been listened, they've been heard, they've been understood. So depending on your child and their communication, you could just reply in a way that shows you understand. If they're asking for another song, or they're asking for another bit of food, or they're needing your attention to do something, you give them that. You let them, you let them know, yeah, here you go, let's sing that again. Or yeah, I'll come a bit closer and help you with that. You do whatever it is that they're communicating to you. The other option you have in terms of what you do to respond is you could copy what they're doing to let them know they've been heard, they've been understood. So if they have a move of their hand, a move of their head, a word they're using, then you could copy it to let them know, yeah, biscuit, so that they know that they've been heard. Yeah, biscuit, and they get what they need. So try that, see if you can build that in to your approach to communication. That's a first thing that everyone can do, because it's really, really important that every child feels they can initiate communication. But children need practice at initiating communication hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. So we need to find a way of putting you in that role of responder. So you need to sit and wait and be silent and take your time and just watch what your child does, and then respond to your child. Okay, and you can see there with this means, reasons and opportunities model that we had to look at, how many opportunities that's actually giving your child to do communication, to practice being a communicator. If you can build that opportunity to help them to initiate communication, how many times across the week? Well, you can fit in more than a half-hour speech therapy session a week, can't you? Because you just use any moment you have. So this is us gone over. Let's just summarize and just make sure we've pulled together our 5 steps for transforming communication. Okay, prioritize communication and language over speech. Develop essential communication skills. You're the person who can take control, who can make changes with the right help, with the right support. Get someone to walk you through this, to help you find what your child needs, how your child needs you to respond, and start building that into your approach, and watch the changes, watch the joy that happens from those moments you're going to have with communication. Meet your child where they are now. Ask that question. When does my child communicate best? What's happening there? And what does that look like? What signals are they giving us? What means are they using? What reasons are they using to communicate? And why does that work so well? What opportunities? Who is that with? When does that happen? Where is it? So ask those questions, use that model, and look at what they're doing now. And when you start there, first of all, you value that communication they're giving you, they're using with you, and then you can extend their skills out to more situations and more contexts. Introduce AAC, have an open mind to what AAC can offer you, the benefits it can offer your child. It can truly transform communication for you and your child and your family. So have a think about what that can do for you and where you might like to start or take the next steps to finding out more about AAC and how that can help. Use the opportunities to communicate within your daily routines. Don't add extra stuff. Use what you already have and embed this approach that you're starting to develop, that you're starting to practice into every situation, every interaction you have, so that you can strengthen your bond with your child, strengthen the connection you have, the relationship. And it's through that dynamic and through those communication moments that your child is going to learn to be the best communicator that they can be. It's never too early to start. So if you are thinking, oh, I've just got a wee one here, take from this what's going to work for you right now and start putting these things in practice now. Start, giving yourself the value that you have as the parent and as the communicator, and be aware of that influence you have and the power you have to support your child's communication and language development, and celebrate the successes you have and the moments you see a change in your child's communication. Take credit for that and feel proud of that and celebrate those moments. It's never too late though. There's always something we can change about the communication environment around the child that will lead to more successful communication. So build on what you're already doing and check where you're encompassing all these 5 steps to make sure you're supporting your child in the best way you can. I've added a few testimonials here, just with people I've worked with and people I've families and children that I've supported with communication, just so you can have an idea of my approach and how I work. So I won't read through all of these, but I do think this one's fantastic. I've increased this was someone who was using signing, increased my signing, and it has really helped with communicating with my daughter. As well as my daughter signing more, she is also starting to say more words. Okay, I do like talking about AAC, making sure you have the information that you need around AAC so that you can make decisions for your family and do what you need to do to help your child. Okay. Amazing. Communication just works. That's what you're looking for, aren't you? Communication to be easier, more successful, for communication to just work all day, every day. So what should you do now? Well, first of all, check that you're receiving my emails. I'll follow up on this masterclass here with other bits of advice, information, guidance to help get you on that right path to supporting your child's communication, to give you those immediate changes that we know are possible now, right now, and to make sure that we're setting your child up for the best future, to be the best communicator that they can be. So have a wee look. Sometimes it goes into your junk folder, so check that where the emails are, check you're getting them, and let me know what you've thought of the masterclass. Let me know how it's going. Let me know how it's going for you and your family and your child. I'd love to know what difference it's making and the impact it's having for you and your family. Have a wee follow of me on Facebook and Instagram. Check the emails out for the links I'm going to give you. And you may choose to book a breakthrough call with me, so you can choose to have a chat with me one-to-one. We can speak about your child's communication and make a plan for next steps to help you gain clarity and confidence about what your child needs to become a confident and competent communicator. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really look forward to connecting with you, to getting to know you and your child and your family. Let me know what else you need so that I can help you, and enjoy communication. Enjoy the opportunity you have to really support communication with your child, and enjoy it, and prioritize yourself, you and your relationship with your child. Put yourself center, and everything else will find that help you need to help your child to make communication as successful as it can be. Thank you very much. Bye for now.